Hello everyone, my name is Pamela Nuri, Head of Expedition Operations at Caledonia, and we have with us here today Darren Ormshaw. Darren is originally from Northern England and he has been at sea with us for 15 years. He's been at sea specifically with us at Noble on the Skyfleet for more than 3 years. And it's a very great pleasure to have him here today as hotel manager interview. Darren, how are you?
I'm good, Pam. Yourself?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wanted to ask, first and foremost, being a guy from Northern England, how did you end up with a 15-year career bumbling around as hotel manager at sea in all the most wild and wonderful places that we go to?
I don't even know where you start with something like that. I think it's, first, I'm very privileged in what I've done and where I've been. But yeah, I mean, coming from quite humble beginnings in Wigan, I mean, it was something I could never have envisaged originally. But even hospitality industry for me was something that I never wanted to get into. And it was only through taking a gap year of wanting to start college or university and moving to Hampshire, where I had family living, that I even kind of dabbled in the hospitality industry. I think I went away and all of a sudden I realised that money was needed, and I got a job in a hotel working dishwashers and being a waiter. And I think that's where my initial passion for hospitality came. And through a series of very fortunate events or being at the right place at the right time, I just progressed through the ranks. And one of my earliest ones was, I remember serving a mystery shopper just a pint of Stella that I don't even like. And it turned out he was a director of Stella Artois, and I was noticed by the general manager because we won quite a good prize for the mystery shop. And at an early age, I was put on a hotel management program, which gave me a taste of probably all aspects. And even though for years then I moved away from hotels and worked in restaurants and nightclubs and even comedy clubs, eventually being in Hampshire and being in Southampton and seeing the big vessels come in and out every day was probably inevitable that was probably where I was going to end up. And unfortunately, I think after serving a group of Carnival directors one night in a restaurant and having a chat and maybe having a joke of going to sea, they kind of, one of them left me a card, and the rest was history, as they say. And that's where it started. And even though they were the big ships, and you know, as I've come away from them now, probably not my cup of tea as much anymore, but they definitely give me the taste of sea life and the cruise industry. And from there, it's just kind of developed and went through the ranks to reach where I've got to today. And
yeah,
so I blame I'm grateful to Stella, even though I could never drink one. And something as small as winning a mystery shopper visit when I was probably 19 means that I do what I do today. So very grateful.
but Darren, I think you touched on something that's sort of, connects a lot of people who work at sea. It's very much about a personality. You can have all your training and all your right academic background and this and that, but it's actually very much a personality thing that ends up, that how individuals end up at sea, and what it takes to be a person at sea is sort of having the right personality. So, and when you have that right personality, often just things line up and you connect all the dots and you land up in your perfect role. So sometimes you see people that haven't quite landed on their perfect job, but for you, I really feel like you've got the right personality for the job and you've landed on your perfect job. So it's so nice. Now, being hotel manager, as you've ended up, is the biggest department on ship. It's sort of 2/3 of all the crew on board are in the hotel department. It's the reception and the purser, so the whole finance and clearance side of the things. It's the whole restaurant, chefs, service, behind the scenes, cooks. It's the laundry department. It's the housekeeping. So it's how the cabins are appearing, and it's a huge sort of diverse department, which you are responsible for. And they're also all the passenger facing side of the operation. So it's, keeping everyone like scrubbed up and looking neat as well and being polite and everything like that. What is the secret to keeping a harmonious and smoothly running ship? Because the hotel is the passenger facing side of how things appear smooth and harmonious. And tell us what's the secret?
Well, I think, well, firstly, flattered with how you portray what our hotel's like and the operation, but I think it stems from many things. I think first and foremost, one thing that which springs to mind when I walk onto any of the sky vessels is the crew numbers, the repeat crew that come back. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, the cruise industry being such a big industry, we have a lot of other companies that I've worked with and we know are huge turnovers. And one thing that we've always kind of kept within the sky vessels is a wonderfully repeat business crew, as well as we have that as with the guests. And I think by having the same faces that come back, the expectations, what we kind of need and what we look for and how we want to improve ourselves, we have the same people that want to be part of that. And so I think selection, recruitment process, obviously how we treat our staff and what we do, and having familiar faces that come back who they know what we expect and just keep pushing the boundaries. I mean, they amaze me every day. I mean, we are senior and we look after all these different departments, but the core crew and the values and how they operate. I've never worked with teams like we have on the sky vessels, and it's easy to say when you're there and you're very biased, but you know, just the kind of collectiveness how everyone does. I mean, we've had situations on board and we have kind of, you know, days where challenges come up that you could never even expect. And, you know, whether we're leaving early from a port and we're getting the food delivery and we have engineers helping us bring it on board, or Bolson and his team, or I've even had the captain come down and help. I just think that even though we have all these departments that kind of work, you know, kind of in their own environment, the togetherness, now everyone just chips in for everybody, is amazing. And then from that selection process of having these amazing staff, the work ethic, and everyone leads by example, you know, whether it's the captain, the engineers, the purser. I don't think anybody's work shy. There's just a great, you know, kind of mentality ingrained in the staff. And, you know, I just think, you know, I'm the biggest fan, and I think on board, I think just the friendship and the togetherness of everybody just gives everybody that kind of thing to spur on. And, you know, I mean, them ships gleam, you know, and they're like ninjas, you know, they come, they go, and I walk around and I do my inspections and things, and they're just a remarkable bunch. And
yeah,
I think just the way that the vessel operates, from selection of recruitment upwards to how life is lived on board, it just all falls in line, and we're just very fortunate to have such a wonderful team.
You're bang on, Darren. You really hit the nail on the head. You're making me feel so nostalgic. It really is. It really is a lovely atmosphere, and it's people that you've known for years and years and years that are still there. And when you have that longevity, you don't need to micromanage people because everyone knows the deal. And actually, that is a huge element of stability and peacefulness on board. So yeah, dead right. So the next question I wanted to ask was the food. We just get to eat this glorious, delicious food, these multi-course meals 3 times a day, served on a plate. And sometimes you take for granted the planning and the backstory that goes into the logistics of the food. So I know, for example, you'll be in the Antarctic needing to be planning your menus for the Indian Ocean, which are going to be much lighter menus, and you'll be needing to order the food and planning those menus so far ahead. And vice versa, you'll be in the Med needing to plan 6 months ahead for those menus and the richer food that you might need in the Antarctic. So tell us a bit about the logistics of the food, because it's delicious, but there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of it, and one that most people don't give much attention for. There's so many other exciting aspects of the ship, but the food side of it is probably one of our biggest challenges in planning. Firstly, we take on the wonderful itinerary that you guys create for us, and we kind of look at 12 months. And the first thing we need to establish is where we can even get it delivered. You know, we're not going to places that most cruise ships go to, you know, these nice big ports in the middle of cities with transportation and things like that. So we tend to take a huge delivery. When I mean huge, I mean consumables, your toilet papers, your shower gels, admin, office supplies, and then beverage, and then frozen items and things like that. The core, other than fresh, we try and get a delivery like every month to the ship. So the first thing we do, we take a year's worth of itinerary and we go, okay, we need to find 12 places we can even deliver to. and that in itself is a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, we go to such remote places, whether it's Papeete in French Polynesia or the northwest coast of Australia, or we've got to find it, and we use container ships. So we're looking at about 8 weeks in advance when we're doing orders. So yeah, we could be Central Mediterranean, and we're trying to get an Antarctic menu. And yeah, it's quite hard to juggle, and on top of that, you're also looking at, we're asking the office to do the manifests in case we've got big groups of different nationalities, because it does happen now, and because different nationalities taste the food, and we even look down to like kind of public holidays to see if we're going to have more like kind of Scottish people to English people to, you know, because we have different drinking patterns. So the kind of logistics that kind of go into, you know, even getting the order to a standard of what we need, and then to kind of get it shipped off with at least 2 months notice. Well, we have a good provision master that kind of assists and aids us, but it's what we also have, Rob. I mean, and as much as I like to take the credit of this logistic operation that we have, that we do a great job in doing, the executive chefs on board that kind of have countless menus, you know, if we kind of miss something, or we run short on something, or we completely forget to order, or we have a high influx of one particular item, their kind of minds just create menus on the drop of a hat. You know, you kind of don't want to tell a chef that we don't have a certain cut of steak coming on, there's no lobster coming on this container or anything like that. But if you ever have to, you can just magic a menu up in just a few minutes. And I suppose having that kind of relief that you know that you've got somebody, a little safety net underneath. Because, you know, we're talking thousands and thousands of items that we've got to order on these containers. You know, 1 month you might not use something as much, and then the next month you do, and it kind of puts your par levels higher. So you order more, order less, and you know, and then of course hotel managers change, chefs change, housekeepers change, and with them habits do as well. So you've also got to look at who's coming on board next, because you might have one chef that, you know, that really likes working with kind of red meat or veals or things like that, but then when kind of Darren leaves and Stu comes on board, he doesn't like working with red meats as much. He likes his poultries, and he likes making stocks from bones. And so you're looking at even staff rotations.
Yeah, that's it.
Basically, you sit down. You know, we have good notice period, like a year of each one. We're slowly compiling the orders like 3 months, 6 months in advance, and we just hope that by the time it comes to the day where the office are calling saying we need your order today, that we've covered more spaces, or at least thought of everything we possibly could have.
Yeah, you know, whenever you're packing, there's always that, oh, just last minute throw in this, last minute throw in this, and every time as you're walking out the door, you just squeeze one more thing, and each time I can imagine ordering your containers of food must be like, oh, just a few extra toothpicks. It really.
That's the thing, you only have, your containers are only a certain size. So like, you really want to go above 2 containers, because obviously the third container's got a huge cost to it. So you're trying to fit everything in as well. So it's you know, you can't just say, you know, we'll just order extra of everything, because the ship as well doesn't have the space. We maximize and use every piece of space we can on board, and we have the engineers and the technical guys creating as much space as possible for us. But the you know, not being able to, it's like having a 23 kg allowance on your luggage. You can't go over it, so you've got to pack it in, and because we don't have these nice big cities where we stop most of the time, you can't just nip to the shop and pick up things. So
that's right.
Yeah,
you know, it really
good at hiding things as well, though. So we never let people know. We just right, and it always works out.
Yeah, it really struck me once we were a day, the whole ship, joining the whole ship turned into a huge fiasco because there was a typhoon in Manila, and everyone got delayed, the passengers, and we all managed to get to the ship at a different port, but the container of food, the big supply of food, couldn't get to us, and we sailed without it. And, you know, in my mind, on the expedition side of things, it's like, people are here to see the destinations, people are here to go to these places. And a couple of days in, I mean, the hotel manager and the chef and the provision master were at every port, ashore, everywhere, buying every egg under the sun. And, you know, if the eggs were being delivered on the backs of motorbikes. And after 3 days, I remember the hotel manager, there was this very serious discussion. It was like, we're going to have to cancel this cruise and send people home because we cannot get all the food we need to keep the menus. And I just thought, well, this is crazy. You know, people didn't come here to eat, they came here to, you know, to see the destinations. But it really opened my eyes to the challenges that actually occur in these places that we go to when, for example, our delivery didn't get to us, and how hard it is to maintain those menus without those very bigly planned deliveries. So on that note, what is the worst thing to run out of as far as you're concerned on a ship?
The worst thing to run out of? I wouldn't like to run out of things like toilet paper and toiletries, you know, where people rely on. You know, we deliver such a nice service. The cabins are wonderfully comfortable, and like you said, I think, you know, when in the nature of the expedition cruise, I think luggage allowances is always strict. You know, you have people that kind of probably don't bring all the toiletries because they don't have to, and they don't bring certain home comforts that they used to. Do you know what I mean? So I think first and foremost, shower gel might just be shower gel, but 90% of our guests don't bring shower gel. So run out of things that are the home comforts, they would never be nice. I can't believe my dog's just got, I'm sorry, it's got running around with a squeaky ball. But then on food, I mean, I think what we just said before is because we have like these wonderful chef teams that can just kind of cheat menus and create menus for us. But one thing that we definitely struggle with and how it can snowball is potato. Because if you run out of chips, and we always kind of have them available, so because people, you know, we like foods as well.
Who doesn't like chips?
Yeah. What we'll do is you run out of chips, you start peeling the potatoes and doing like home chips. And then all of a sudden you're using more potatoes. That means there's less potatoes to use when you need to do roast, so you need to do Parisienne or pommes potatoes. And all of a sudden, because you're using the potatoes for things that, you know, because you've got no chips, then your potato limits, the stocks are running low. And I think that's the problem you have sometimes. I don't think you can run out of things, or we do, but when consumption starts going higher because you've not got one thing in that kind of group, then you start getting close. And I mean, potatoes would be a nightmare to run out of. It's such a part of every dish, and there's only so much cooked rice and other kind of starchy items. But we had an amazing chef on one recent trip that we ran out of chocolate, and he started making his own. He was going through all different types of things, making vegan chocolate, vegetarian chocolate. He was making all these different things to kind of keep us going, because the part we were down in Antarctica and we couldn't get any chocolate. And he was making his own stuff. He was making chocolate sauces, and I just don't know how we managed and how we did it. And
especially Antarctica without chocolate. I can imagine the tropics maybe, but not in a place like Antarctica. You need chocolate there.
And I think we got one of the highest dessert pastry ratings that we'd had for the season. So it just shows that you kind of, the curveballs we can throw these chefs, or we can throw some of the staff on board that you know, that deal with certain stocks, that they just seem to have an answer for everything. So yeah, I've never had any actual disasters, but I think we're such a good set of people that use the mind in ingenious ways that we kind of avoid these situations possible.
Okay, so you kind of alluded to it earlier with this lovely longevity that we have with the crew returning, you know, year after year. It's a huge part of the enjoyment of the job for me as well. And being at sea for, you know, particularly hotel department and all the crew that are spending so many months on board, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. This is your family, this is your life, this is very much more your life and your family than even at home sometimes for many of us, or for those few years in your life. You know, this is very much, like I said, it's a lifestyle. So there's the passenger facing side of things that, of course, you know, we all are familiar with, but there's so much more behind the scenes. Tell us a little bit about life on board behind the scenes.
Okay. I think where it stems and what it goes back to the passenger facing side is the ship is broken up into three. I look after the hotel side of things, and we have the technical and we have the deck. And I think what's wonderful about it is the chief engineers that run the technical and the captains that we have, they're the same quality of leader, they're the same open door policy, people that just want to help people. So you've kind of, if you put yourself in that category, you've got three of the senior people on board that they're kind of all on the same wavelength, and that's not always the case, you know, that I've had. But since I came to the Sky Vessels, every captain, every chief engineer, the way that they are in meetings and the constant, you know, I kind of sit and chat with the captain 4, 5, 6 times a day. Same with the chief engineer, and that's remarkable. And what it does is it just gives the camaraderie from the senior personnel. It just gives you such a lift, and that just then drips down to the rest of the crew. The captains walking around the vessel, the chief engineers walking around the vessel, and it just gives the staff a massive lift, and that portrays in how we do our job. Everyone's just so approachable. But then the other huge elements of life on board, and we do all live and work together, but a huge part of it is the crew welfare. I mean, the crew welfare, for those who don't know, we have a crew committee that comes from one person from every department. So one from housekeeping, one from the bar, one from restaurants, one from engine, one from the deck. And it kind of makes up about 8, 9 people, and then we have an elected chairperson. And these guys and girls just do everything they can to make activities, parties, trips out, just to keep that kind of fantastic atmosphere that we have. You know, we have a lot of beautiful events that are well put together. I mean, I'm talking, you know, I've worked in hospitality and hotels a long time, even on land, and you know, I know what people pay to have event organisers. Some of the decorations that these guys and girls do for parties on board, and for just simple kind of karaoke nights or bingo nights, the effort is just unbelievable. And that's at the end of doing the days that we do when we're, you know, doing our regular jobs, and still find that effort and motivation to kind of do things for the crew and do things for their colleagues and do things for themselves. And I've always believed that the crew welfare is an integral part of any operation. It should be part of any business operation because of what it does. And I know because we're at sea a lot, and it is a life that we all choose, but it's a life that we all love. It's still important to kind of socialise. It's still important to kind of have these things that look forward to. And if it is bingo, or if it is karaoke, or if it is, you know, just a kind of themed event, these are things that they just work. And you always know, you know, I don't attend them all. I think sometimes it's nice to go to them and show a face, but I've always been a believer that the crew should have their own space as well. And sometimes I said to some of the, you know, senior officers, like, let's leave them for that one, because they come out a little bit more than they're not on edge that, you know, the boss is watching, and I don't mind that time, but you always know the next day when there's been like a wonderful crew event, because them smiles that you're already accustomed to just are even bigger, and you don't think it could ever be possible. And I think just the way that everyone kind of integrates, there's no departmental divides. Everyone kind of gets on with everybody, and it just makes such a nice kind of atmosphere and life on board. And whether it's the PlayStation room, or we've got some talented musicians, you know, we do little open mic nights, or we do basketball competitions on the PlayStation, or we play a lot of darts. We have dart tournaments with dart players.
Yeah.
You've got to do things that you kind of would do at home, hobbies you would have at home, to keep this kind of nice relationship up, and it life on board easy, because it's not easy. You know, you're away from family. We walk around the ship and we see all the staff, and some of them don't look old enough to even be married. Some of our Filipino colleagues, and some of the other people who are very kind of, you know, keep the personal things close to themselves. But, you know, a lot of them are married with kids, and they're all still doing it with a smile on their face. And I think it's just a wonderful bunch. And I think a happy life behind the scenes only benefits the front of our scenes when we've got to do the job that we're there to do. So
yeah. That was so well described. I think we just see a glimpse of it at like the barbecue, when, you know, the purser or the receptionist like whips out this amazing singing number for us, and you see how much, you know, that is not just out of nowhere. There's a fair bit of practice in the karaoke behind the scenes that goes into that one. So Darren, thank you so much for your time. It's been really great to connect. I'm sure a lot of our guests will have seen you over the years and will appreciate hearing all the stories from you from behind the scenes, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, man. Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, cheers.